Hey guys, welcome back to BA Creative. Today we are replicating the Tim Holtz January 2013 tag using only what you have. I'm going to be honest, the let me show you what you need portion of this video is kind of long. I, for some reason, took my time and it kind of drags on a little bit. I'll own that. So if you want to skip that part of the video, I'll put the timestamp down in the description box below so you can jump right to the process portion. As always, I would love to see any of your makes that are inspired by this video. So please hit me up on Instagram. I hope you enjoy and I hope you have a lot of fun. These are the things that we're going to need to make the Tim Holtz tag of January 2013. The first thing is some distressed metallics. I only have one, and that's in tarnished brass, so that's what we're using. Check. That was a harsh check. Sorry about that. We're going to need some distress ink in ice spruce. We're also, I'm sorry, I need to pull it together. In Stormy Sky, and in rusty Hinge, and in walnut stain. I can't believe I actually have all of those colors. That's kind of awesome. We are going to need an ink blending tool. Check. A craft sheet. Instead of the craft sheet, I'm using my trusty tonic media mat. We're going to need the mister, as always. Love that thing. A heat tool, and that's it right there. It's super grungy. I am not going to use my glossy accents because I only have a little bit of that and I don't want to use it as glue. Jet black archival ink. I don't have that, so instead of the glossy accents, we're going to use the Tombow. The jet black archival ink, I don't have that, so we're going to be using Stazon instead. That stuff's amazing. I should buy stock in Stazon. I use it so much. The 1 1/8 inch Wonder Tape. No. However, we do have the number 8 Manila Tag. We're using that. Grunge paper? Nope. Nope, we're not using that at all. And also the vial label. That's looking like a no as well. Crinkle ribbon. A really good substitute for that, I think, is Sari Ribbon. So that's what we're using. That should actually be a check. I don't know why I crossed that off. Film strip ribbon. Okay, so I didn't have any of that. And I played around and I figured out a way to actually make it. You're going to need a piece of acetate, a small washi. If you have some that looks like a ruler, that's probably going to be the easiest thing, but any type of dark, thin washi tape will do. That acetate sheet is actually just the part that I pulled off from a stamp. I mean, it wasn't anything special. And some distress ink, and I believe that is walnut stain, just to give it a little bit of like the distressing. Oh, we're going to need scissors. That's super important. And a Posca pen, or any type of acrylic paint pen, because that's what you can draw with the acetate on. You can draw over the acetate with. A hinge clip, check. Sprocket gears. So I have these tiny little ones, and I think that's what he's talking about per the instructions. So that is a double check, because we're going to use both. We're basically going to use the same size for both the sprocket gears and the mini gears. A game spinner. That is looking like a no. And the mini fastener, no. That's the I always want to say it's a paper clip, but it's not. It's the, what the hell is the name of that? I don't know. I don't have it. I can't ever remember what that's actually called. The sanding grip. We're going to use sandpaper instead. And, you know, honestly, if I were going to invest in anything for future projects, it would probably be that sanding grip. The Clock and Steampunk Texture Fade. Okay, that's an embossing folder that I didn't have. So I had this one that looked kind of like his, I think. You know, it was close enough. So that's what we're going to use. And I really like the design. So that is a check. I don't know why I crossed that off either. Oh, okay. Look, I'm being so thoughtful. Random grungy e-folder. Aw, good job, Pat Shannon. And let's see what's next. The gadget, oh, the gears. Okay, so I cheated. I didn't have the die cut that cuts those out. I used my Cricut. And if you have Cricut Access, that's a free cut file with them. You could totally draw those if you wanted to and just cut them out. I mean, it's nothing but circles with little spokes. So I just didn't, I was being lazy and didn't feel like drawing them. So I just, like I said, I used my Cricut. Those 3 stamp sets, I did not have any of them except for the small hand one right there, which I wind up using, but I didn't have his little ticket paper that he stamps that on either. So it looks a little different. Well, the whole tag really looks different if we're being honest about it. And the last thing is the paper distresser, which I think is the same thing as the above mentioned distressing tool that I'm substituting the sandpaper with. I don't know what I'm talking about right there in the actual thing. So sandpaper again, yes, that's what we're using. Okay, so that is all of the things that we're going to need to make this tag. So we're going to speed this up to get through the rest of this process. And the very first thing, step 1, is going to be to run that through the embossing folder. Now, if you read his blog, he says to cut a slit in the top of your folder so your tag will slide right through. And by golly, it worked. That was nice. I don't know why I didn't think about that, previously. So we embossed the Manila Tag. And steps 4 on his blog, they basically just say go over all that with your distress inks. And I don't know. I wasn't crazy about the colors that he used, but I really like bright colors. So I had to layer them on pretty thick. And I mean, it's pretty. It's okay. But I think if I redo this tag, I'll probably do it in different colors. Step 7, however, is to use the walnut stain and basically just distress the crap out of it, because that's Tim Holtz, right? He's like some type of distressing prophet bringing us the gift of grunge. It's fantastic. The instructions say to go over the top of the embossing folder so that you just hit the embossed parts with the distress ink, but I really struggled just doing that. So I finally gave up and just was like, I'm just going to go over the whole thing. It got a little too dark for my taste though. So I'm just going back over it again with some of that rusty hinge to kind of brighten it back up a little bit. So that completes step 7, and we are moving on to step 8, which is of course to make the water droplets. I have been struggling with my mister to get those really big drops, so I find just using my hand works the best. I mean, that just works, so that's what I'm doing. Step 9 is completed. Now we're going on to step 10, step 11, and 12. Oh, we did step 9 and step 10. Okay, sorry. Step 11, now we have to color our little wheels, our gears. And I kind of wish I had another color of those because it just blended into the background a little too much, and different colored wheels I think would have helped quite a bit. Steps 13, nope, we're skipping that. Steps 14. Once those are dry, he says go over and distress the edges. But I think because of the color of stain that I used, you couldn't really tell. So it just, I don't know. It didn't really make that big of a difference. I think that if I had had like a red hue stain, that would have made a bigger difference. Step 15. Let's see what this is. Oh, now we have to glue it down. Okay, so I'm going to make a mistake here, even though I'm actually literally following along the blog as I'm looking this. Like, I'm going step by step as I'm doing this. And I glued all of the gears to one side of the tag. I'm not going to realize that this is a mistake until about 4 or 5 minutes later when I have to glue down the photo strip. So I'm just kind of bebopping along like, this is going so well. No, I've made a mistake and I don't know it yet. So step 18. This part is a little finicky, and I decided to leave this whole part in because, like I said in the intro, I didn't have the photo strip paper, and I wanted, that stuff can be expensive, like it adds up, so I really wanted to show how I made this, and I think it actually really does a good job of mimicking his photo strips. Like, if you don't look at it too hard and maybe squint your eyes and kind of hold the tag away a little bit, you would never be able to tell that that is completely reverse engineered using just some of, simple projects you have laying, or simple stuff you have laying around. So I used my 1-inch markers on the tonic to measure out an inch. I put the washi strips down on both sides and then cut it off. We're going to cut it twice, but it's easier to work like this. Now I'm taking that Posca pen, and about every inch or so, I am drawing a thick straight line. And I just looked at the image in the computer to see what his photo strip paper looked like, to replicate this. Oh, this is when I realized that I've stuck them all on one side, and I'm I'm trying to figure out what to do. That's what I was doing. So once that's dry, I go back over the acetate with the Posca pen, and I'm making little triangles on each side of the lines, because if you look at the film strip, it has like these little thick edges where whatever those lines on the film strip is called meets the edge of the strip. So again, I'm just trying to replicate that. It was super simple. It kind of looks like a ladder. I understand. Just bear with me. Once that's dry, and I can't stress this enough, the Posca pen will dry on the acetate, but it's going to take a minute. You got to let that sit. Once it's dry, go back with your little, I wind up using mostly my finger, but if you have a mini blending tool, that's perfect for this, just to distress the acetate. And I found that it didn't smear off. Like, the distress inks stayed on really well. Now we're going to carefully cut off the little numbers. I want just the little, like, actual ruler millimeter part, because I think that that looked really super close to the actual photo strip, like if you were to go buy it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm very carefully cutting off all the little numbers. And boom, we have a photo strip. I was so freaking proud of that, you guys. Like, I was like, yes! If I can make a photo strip from anything, I can make anything I want. Like, sorry, that I was just really pleased. I'm cutting off the edges of the gears, and in this particular moment in time, I don't realize that that's how I'm going to fix this. But fortunately, I don't throw, well, now I've realized that's how I fix this. Because I don't throw anything like that away, I just keep it for scraps. I can actually kind of balance that out by using that little tail I cut off. So another good thing about using the washi tape on the acetate, it gives you something to glue down, and you won't really see the glue through the acetate. So I'm basically at this point just trying to glue it down. Remember that folder is embossed, so I wound up having to use quite a bit of glue, which is a big surprise, right? You guys know I love glue. I actually accidentally glued the wrong side of that sprocket. That's what I was doing. I was smearing it on the correct side with my finger. Now we're going to leave that alone as we move on to step 21. In his original tag, he uses one like long script text that I did not have. So in order to replicate that, I went with two smaller ones. And in hindsight, if you're making this, I would suggest actually using a slightly smaller script set or sentiment, whatever you're going to put over that, because it basically covers up the whole tag. It's a little bit too big. Step 21 is going around the edges with the sandpaper. So earlier I said if I was going to invest in anything for future tags that I'm going to make, it would probably be his little paper distressing tool, which I think is that last thing on the list that I couldn't recall what it was. The sandpaper works, but you have to really work for it, and it doesn't work as well as his actual distressing tool. So the instructions also say to ink the edges of that, and I believe I'm using Vintage Photo. We attach our little hinge, and now we're going to complete step 22, which are those pesky little foam adhesives that take me forever to peel the backs off of. Those things are ridiculous. I cut out like 5 minutes of footage of me trying to peel those. Stick that down on your tag correctly the first time. Don't do as I say, not as I do, because I didn't get that stuck down evenly the first time. Set that to the side to dry, and now we're going to work on the ribbon. So in his instructions, he uses a different stamp set that, again, I didn't have. So I just pulled out some random travel-themed stamps that I have of his, and I'm using the Stazon to stamp directly onto the Sari ribbon. I used 3 stamps, and then I just alternated stamping them. This was a little bit time consuming, I'll be honest. So I cut that out for you. You're welcome. I only stamped on one side of the Sari ribbon because the Stazon was so dark, you could basically see through it, and I didn't really think it needed it on both. In retrospect, I wish I had used the Timber Brown Stazon that I have. I think it would have, I don't know, there's not anything black on the tag. I should have used brown, but whatever. Okay, so step 30 is get that on your tag by, attaching it. And now we're going to add the photo strip. Well, I've already added the photo strip, but I realized that you can't see it. So luckily, how fortuitous, I had saved my practice photo strip I made prior to the video, and I used that to just extend it so that you could see it sticking out the side of the tag. In his original one for step 30, he stamps that little hand piece on a ticket. I don't have that, so that is a torn piece of book paper with that little hand stamp. And eventually I'm going to glue that down. Right now I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put all of my little sprocket pieces and mini gears and all those. I pulled out the big gun glue for that because those are metal pieces, so I used my Fabri-Tac to glue those down. And I'm glad that I did, because even with the Fabri-Tac, it still was kind of tedious getting those glued down. They just didn't want to stick over that embossing. So I used my Distress Collage medium to get the little handprint down. And there we have it. There's our tag. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.